Yes! The Jets have swept the Oilers!
4 games, 3 overtimes, and that was all she wrote for the Oilers against the Jets back in May. Now as Connor McDavid enters year 7 in the NHL, he's made it past the first round just once.
The century mark in just 53 games for Connor McDavid!
Coming off a historic 105 points in 56 games last year, McDavid's Oilers are again in search of some depth scoring. Leon Draisaitl was second on the team with 84 points, but their next highest scorer was defenseman Tyson Barrie with 48. So Ken Holland brings in Zach Hyman, Warren Foegele, and Derek Ryan, while on the back end, Duncan Keith hopes to provide some winning experience with still 2 years left on the 13-year deal he signed with Chicago back in '09. A big question, how will the goaltending hold up? 39-year-old Mike Smith returns having won 21 games with good numbers, but if he has to miss time, it'll be up to 33-year-old Mikko Koskinen to step up in goal. 6 of the 8 teams in the Pacific Division weren't a part of last year's playoffs, so another opportunity for postseason success should be in store for the Oil.
We're talking Oilers, so we have to bring in an expert. That is, of course, Sportsnet's Oilers reporter, Gene Principe. Mean Gene, thanks so much for doing this. Let's get right into this bad boy. We know that the Oilers, they get production from the tippy-top guys, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. Did Ken Holland and co., did they do enough to supplement the scoring of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl?
You know what? First off, thanks for allowing me to talk about the Oilers. And I think the answer would be yes. And part of that is yes, see, Puljujarvi. Because of his development, the Edmonton Oilers feel like they might have put together what will be a very strong first line or 1A, depending on how you look at things. But one of the great things about the Oilers is that they can play Leon and Connor on the same line. But one of the detriments of that is that they're on the same line. So I think in a perfect world and in a Stanley Cup world, those two guys, for the most part, need to be on separate units. And I think with McDavid, first off, Jesse Puljujarvi, who was the 4th pick in 2016, is really starting to develop into a goal scorer. And that's what Connor needs, right? Connor, if he wants to score 15 a season, he can do it. But at this point, he's more of a 35, 40 goal scorer and maybe a 100 assist guy. So with that in mind, you need a great shooter. Yes, he's that. Then in the offseason, Ken Holland went out and got Zach Hyman, who is really good at lots of things. A net front presence, hard worker, has skill, can get in there and work hard on the forecheck. So he's sort of a lunch pail kind of guy, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I mean that in he always brings his lunchbox to work and he's ready to get to it. So I think that combination as one unit, and then you throw in Leon Draisaitl, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and likely Kyler Yamamoto, you've got 2 what should be very good lines.
Now, speaking of Leon Draisaitl, in the preseason, Draisaitl made some headlines when Dave Tippett accused star forward of poor decision-making on the ice when it came to his passing, at least. Tippett was more alluding to the fact that he wants this team to be ready to play in April, May, and beyond, rather than just the regular season preseason. So, Gene, I asked this. Will this Oilers squad be ready to compete when it matters most in the postseason?
Yeah, I think they will be. And that's the point that the franchise is at. You know, I think when Connor and Leon came along, there was a belief that, you know, they needed a couple of years, great players. Leon developed a little bit slower than Connor. Connor was here to stay and, you know, he did nothing but succeed. But I think they're at the point now where, you know, getting to the playoffs, you know, winning a round would be nice, but far from satisfying. They've reached a point where I wouldn't say Stanley Cup or bust, but it has to be more than they've most recently had since those two have been on the team. You know, Edmonton made it to Game 7 of the second round in 2017. That'll be 5 years ago pretty soon. So I think that's something that this team is really motivated, and it started right in September, in fact, when Connor McDavid, the captain, said, the time is now. So when your captain says that, I think everybody believes that the time is now for the Edmonton Oilers.
The old saying goes, a coach will only go as far as his goalie, or in this case, goalies will take him. Gene, how far will Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen take Dave Tippett this year?
Nice of you to wait till the third question to ask that. That's very polite of you, because it is the question that people have, and I'm far from thinking that the Oilers were ousted from last year's playoffs in a sweep because of their goaltending. I mean, they lost one game in triple overtime. One game was an empty net goal that made it a 2-goal game. I really think that you sort of win as a team and lose as a team. One area that Edmonton to this point has not touched is their goaltending. And so I think that's why fans are kind of wondering, well, where are these two guys going to take them? They've upgraded up front. They've added on defense. I like the combo. I think that they can get a lot accomplished for Edmonton. And I also believe you've got two very motivated netminders who kind of feel like people are, talking garbage or trash about them, and they want to prove that none of that is true. Now, having said all that, I think Ken Holland is ready and prepared, whether it's at the trade deadline, whether it's before, if he feels he needs a third goalie, just to make sure to have that insurance, then I don't feel he'll be at all sensitive to the two he's got. He'll be ready to do whatever he's got. I feel like the Oilers are in the win now mode. This isn't about building. This isn't about trying things for the future. It's about when you've got the two best players in the league, and we can argue that another time. I think every year is a cup year. So with that in mind, Ken Holland's going to take that approach, whether it's net mining, defense, forward, whatever it is, he'll do whatever it takes in order to build the Oilers as best he can in order to have postseason success.
Gene Principe celebrating 20 years this hockey season with Sportsnet. He is a multi-position talent for Sportsnet, that's for sure. Gino, thanks so much for doing this.
Anytime, pal. 20 years.